Hello, everyone, and welcome to the FM show. On this week's episode, how do you bring your season to an end? Ironically, let's get started. Welcome to the FM show. I'm Tony Jameson, and joining me, as always, is Aaron Falloon, aka RDF Tactics, and producer Steve. Aaron, Steve, how are we?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I'm practically a new man. Some big news. I am now engaged. So that's what's happened between last week's episode and this week's episode. So that's where my head's been at the moment. And of course, some offline Football Manager saves.
Oh, congratulations, Mr.
Thank
RDF.
you, thank you.
And of course, soon to be Mrs. RDF as well.
Yes.
So, very wonderful news. Wonderful news indeed.
Thank you.
That absolutely top trumps my I've been on holiday with the kids. So welcome back. Steve, anything that can trump and again,
no,
should have come you first to be honest, shouldn't you?
probably. Yeah, that would have been the professional thing to do, wasn't it? Actually, looking back, yeah. Went on holiday as well. Went to Scotland for a bit. That was nice. With my actually, relatedly, it was a sort of anniversary jaunt to Scotland with my first anniversary with my wife. So that was,
Ooh.
yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
So actually, yeah, Aaron, yeah. Take that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I went to Norfolk for a week with the kids, and I think it was 2 days too long. So there you go.
There we go. But in FM land, Tony, obviously the last episode we did a comprehensive look through of conditioning and preventing injuries, all that sort of stuff. And if you want to listen to that on the audio feed, go back down the feed. If you're watching and it's on the channel, to find it too. If you want to get more detail before listening to this one. So you can obviously guess what happened in my save since then.
I'm not going to guess. I'm going to wait for you to just tell us.
Massive injury crisis.
Oh my God. No way.
Yeah. Multiple players out for like 6 weeks, and it's the stage of the season where it's like, right, your season's over then. Yeah. So that's what I know. But that said, though, there were quite a few players that like a couple of them were contact, but some were definitely like, even though arrested, even though I think the thing that really got me with a couple of them in particular, it's like, when the games are really important, and every single game's important, and you just don't trust your squad enough, So I knew there were certain players, like I've got a guy called Zeno van Housden at right back when I'm being more defensive, because he's a lot more stronger defensively and technically really good. But he was sort of injury prone, and I played him in a game and he got injured for 6 weeks, so I lost him. And it's like I just didn't have enough faith in my backup option, and I should have done, because I lost him. I lost my primary option, and Yeah.
But this is the thing, though. Like, you look at, as you say, these big game moments, and you want to have your big game players in those moments. And sometimes you will risk a player who's, not quite in tip-top condition, and you shouldn't, but you really need that guy on the pitch.
Yeah.
And sadly, it does tend to happen, doesn't it, where things don't quite go to plan. Speaking of things that don't quite go to plan, do you remember, I think it was maybe 2 episodes ago, where I talked about joining Sunderland on my save. Twitch.tv/Tony Jameson FM, by the way, if you're interested in following this story. I went back to Sunderland, the Holy Grail. I went and returned home for 12 matches. It didn't go well. Basically, what happened, I couldn't buy a win, literally couldn't buy a win. We drew and lost. We were the only club in all of England, including the Panorama North and South, who after 13 games didn't have a victory, yet weren't bottom of the Premier League. And then the players started kicking off, and then I threw some chairs, and I thought, but I don't need this, and I left. So stormed out of Sunderland, and I'm afraid I'm about to make you two both angry.
Oh no.
I took the job at Spurs. Harry Kane was sacked as manager of Tottenham. He'd been there for God knows how long, right? He was sacked as manager of Tottenham. I walked in. I was like, I can sort this out. Right? And they were like, yeah, you can probably do that. So I turned up in the December. So at the December transfer window, I spent silly money. I spent £101 million on a defender. I've never done that before in my life.
One defender.
I had a transfer budget of 145 million, and I spent 300 million in a transfer window in December, right? By able to sell players out and get players back in. It was amazing, right? Some of those, of course, go back to the transfer episode discussion. Some of those players were on the Never Never, and we stretched those fees around, so it's slightly inflated. But what happened was we took over that club when they were in 9th position, I believe. And we got a 4-3-3, Aaron, with the 4-3-3 that we discussed on the Tactics Garage episode a few weeks ago as well. I plugged that in and I started tweaking with it. So it was specific to the players that I had. Long story short, I got us to 5th in the Premier League. So we qualified for the Europa League, which was pretty good. We weren't expected to finish mid-table. But we also won the Europa League, so we've qualified for the Champions League, actually.
And you won a trophy with Spurs.
Yeah. How so there you go. Get in the comments. Nobody can apparently win a trophy with Spurs apart from me, the guy that can't win trophies.
Can't win a game at Sunderland.
That's fun.
All the Sunderland fans sitting there going, is he the fella that couldn't even get a win for us? He's parading around with the Europa League trophy. What a joke.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, so there you go. So let's see where we are next week. But at the minute, I'm still at Spurs.
That's good. Well, as long as you're happy, Tony, that's what matters.
Exactly. And I'm not just the only one happy, Steve, right? Because we have been getting lots of comments about previous episodes, which of course we love to see. Isn't that right, Aaron?
Yes. We got a message from Geronimo 459. Geronimo, that's the one.
Could be. Geronimo.
4592 on YouTube. New episode, FM show, or like we say in Germany, yeah! Much love to all of you for making my days better. I was waiting for that moment just to do that.
I'm very happy with how you did that, Aaron. That's excellent. Well done.
Yeah. There wasn't even a meeting beforehand to work out who's reading this. Aaron was like, I'm reading that one. Right,
I needed that one. That's the one word in German I could probably say.
Yeah. Or I should say. Excellent. We've also had Neil Bathgate 9278 has got in touch in relation to rest, conditioning, fatigue, which you spoke about earlier, and I feel like I've massively undermined massively undermined the entire episode because of what then happened in my own save. But it just shows that it could have actually been worse. Anyway, Neil Bathgate says, I find that rest helps with condition between matches. If the player's still playing, then fatigue will still build up. So Neil used it and thinks it's okay and does its thing. Didn't go into as much detail as you probably want, though, Aaron, in terms of what they're resting from. But I don't think anyone will be able to satisfy you with that.
I still need to know. We need answers, or I need answers.
In relation to that, we had a lot of responses on social media going, if these two don't know what's going on about rest, there's no hope for anybody. And Aaron, of course, hasn't got a clue about rest. So if anyone does know, please do get in touch. Jonathan Dale has also got in touch as well that says, I'm so glad the show is back. I've missed the fun and laughs about this addicting game.
And this is from episode 4 when we spoke about philosophy from Bruno Ottens. Again, I paused because I really wanted to get that name right. Loving the podcast, guys. It's making my FM experience much better with all the stories and information you guys are putting out here. Started unemployed and first took AFC Wimbledon from League 2 to the Championship. Then Royal Antwerp came calling and took them a couple league and cup trophies. Now at AZ, who were in a downward spiral and on the verge of relegation. Hopefully, I could take my whole time club back to the heights of the beginning of the simulation and challenge the historic top 3 in the Netherlands.
That's a right career, that, isn't it? Like
it's beautiful.
If you're from from Alkmaar, is it Alkmaar or from where AZ, then to be Wimbledon to Antwerp, great club as well. AZ, that's brilliant. Let us know how you get on, Bruno. Let us know if you do make that top 3. We've also got Aaron. You're wondering about stumbling over this one. I've got Yuka Sippo. here, Yukasipo on YouTube says, I discovered a tactic where I buy players, brackets not forwards, for half the price by giving the club that they're buying from silly money, like 150 million to 300 million, if the player scores 20 goals. We're talking about FM ethics here, aren't we, at this point, right? If they get anywhere near that, I can always sell them. Yeah, you cash in. If someone 20 goals and you're getting 300 million, he's playing with MK Dons in the season 2029, and he's finished 6th in the Premier League. Presumably, anyone who scores 20 goals is sold for 150 million quid.
That's
and then
crazy.
Moved on up.
It's high risk, isn't it?
I'm coming to you first with this one as Father Steve. What do you reckon?
I think it's high risk, isn't it? Because if I'm the sort of selling club, sorry, and I accept that, and it's sort of your own idiocy, right? Because crucially, you can mention not forwards, so he's probably saying here's a centre back. I think the idea is £5 million for the centre back, and if he scores 20 goals in the season, 150 million pounds. Which,
but the way I set up my set pieces, that's a risk.
Yeah.
I could just imagine us the centre back going up for the late corner. We've won the game, and then someone's just let me. Yeah, it's just costed you 300 million. Oh, yeah.
You've bought a 6'7" centre half, and you have him lurking on the edge of the box. That literally is undoing why you bought him.
But yeah, is it across 20 goals across their career at the club, or is it each season? Or
I think it'll be
it must be a milestone clause, right? It's the milestone clause. That is.
But imagine that though. Where do MK Dons start? MK Dons start in League One, possibly, or League Two?
League One, I believe.
League One, right? So you get a player scores 20 goals. Let's say it's the centre back. Okay, you signed a player. He scored 20 goals in League One. You're then £150 million out. What? There's no way
game
you've
is
got that money. Surely.
I guess the game is if your centre back has scored 19 goals, then you can probably get enough money for him before he scores that 20th goal. I think that's got to be the plan, right? Don't let him get to 20. But don't let him get to 20. But if he's got 19, he's gonna have a high average rating, and you can sell him, and then just don't play him for the rest.
But then it's what if you're in between transfer windows when that happens? You know what I mean? You've got to kind of make the decision in the windows. Oof, tightrope. It's a tightrope, that one.
It's a gamble, but every transfer is a gamble, right?
Yeah,
it is. But well, let us know in the comments below if that's a strategy that you would employ, or whether that's just a little bit too dangerous.
I would love to hear, in a way, what if one of those clauses, what happens? How do you genuinely go, okay, now MK Dons owes a club 150 million quid. Where the hell does that come from? Etc.
Imagine the transfer discussion, right? Okay, imagine this. We're sat in the boardroom, okay? You're sat there, you're the player's agent, right? You're sat there, you're the director of football, you're the opposition director of football. Right, we're going to give you 5 million quid. We're not selling for 5 million quid. But if he scores 20 goals, you can have 300 million. Where's A to Z? There's loads of negotiations.
We're in League One. What are you talking about?
It's such a gamble, man. That's something that I generally wouldn't play with. It sounds smart, but I just wouldn't play with that. It'd be risky.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure it's necessarily ethically, because ultimately you are, and we're going to get into ethics in a second. Again. Yeah. But ultimately you're they agree to it. The AI can say no.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that deceptive. And he is then going to potentially inhibit himself if that player does get close to it. So I don't know. I don't think Yuka will have to be visiting the professional, is what I will say. Someone who has done, though.
Ooh.
If you go back to last week's episode, you would have heard the FN confessional of Rob Latham. And we have had an update on that. So for a bit of background, it was Rob was on Real Sociedad, really good save. And as often happens when you have a really nice save, but then you get tempted by the money of a big club like a PSG or Man City. In this case, it was a PSG. Rob took it, but before doing it, saved the old save, did PSG for a little bit, rather than save Scum, went back to the old save as if that didn't happen. So time traveling. Now,
save Scum, Steve. Let's call it like it is. He went back in time and undid what he did.
As you can see, opinions differed in terms of the severity to which of this sin, and it was a sin. So we said the penance for Rob was carry on a sausage. That's fine. We know what these saves are like when you love them. It's 4 seasons in.
Yeah,
didn't want to be too harsh, but you do have to sell your best player. That's what we said. So Rob says, "Thank you for the confession, Father. I did quit PSG after less than a month without playing a game, as the big money side of it was just boring and dirty. To update, I actually did sell my best player for £135 million. So it's hardly that. Okay."
Clearly a centre back, 20 goals scored.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. PSG couldn't afford him though, interestingly, so he went to Man United, Man UFC instead. But with Sociedad, he has won the league twice since though. So
he hasn't learned.
I can't believe he's taken 135 million. I can't believe he's taken.
Right, wind this one back. Right, so Steve, last week, right, you said as his penance was sell your best player. That was your idea of a punishment that was fit for the crime of you're right. You need to sell your best player. So what he's done is he's benefited financially from this. Okay, he's then went and got another job, and he then tells us he's won the league twice. I still stand by. He should have been made to leave Sociedad. What he's done there is I've sold my player and I've reinvested, and you know what? I'm better for it.
Yeah, it turns out I didn't think I'd get that money for him. So yeah. Yes.
Tony's not impressed.
He's not impressed at all.
No. Well, there we go. It turns out if you want an easy ride, then go to the FM confessional by the sounds of things. Yeah. There you go.
To be fair, okay, maybe we've got a lesson to learn there as well, because we did say sell the player, but we didn't necessarily say make sure you don't benefit from it. Maybe that's the... I'm sorry for the future, guys. It's possibly next time we're going to say you're going to have to get rid of him for free now.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. That might be the next one.
As always, each case on its merits, though, Steve, right?
Yeah, exactly. Each case on its merits. And if you do have any Football Manager faux pas or sins, you might say that you do want to unburden yourself off, then, of course, do send them over to the FM confessional.
Which can be via email to...
Yes, that's a good idea, yes.
FMShowPod, FMShowPod @gmail.com. We've got a live show coming up on Monday, the 6th of November in Nottingham at the Canal House. It's part of the Nottingham Comedy Festival. If you're interested in coming to see the FM show live, seeing myself, seeing producer Steve, seeing RDF Tactics in person, then there's a ticket link in the description below. The tickets are priced at £5. Come and see the show. Come and hang out afterwards. We'll do a bit of a meet and greet. We'll do a bit of a chat. We'll talk FM. Bring your stories. Bring Matt Doherty if you can. But yeah, Monday the 6th of November, the Canal House in Nottingham, £5. Ticket link in the description below. Get your tickets. Come and hang out. It's going to be fantastic. We should also say as well, we got a message on Twitter from Jonah, which is at Lagojou. Basically wondering where we were for a little bit, because you might have seen that we started putting out little clips of the show, because obviously we record it for YouTube now. So if you see myself or Aaron posting out on social media or via the FM show podcast Twitter feed as well, Steve also is busy retweeting all these little clips of the show. Jonah basically asking, is this a new thing? Like, where's this? I can't find it. Basically what happened was Jonah still had the old feed locked in for subscribing. So obviously we've rebranded. We are under a new name now. So in order to find us, if you are going, hey, I tell you what, they've not been around for a while. We are still here, but we're now under the FM Show Pod. So you need to repoint your RSS feed. The link is in the description, of course. So do that. Redirect all your podcast feeds. Then you'll get the back catalogue and you'll get to hear all the good stuff that we spoke about over the last few weeks. And of course, come and reconnect with us. And if you're brand new, make sure you subscribe to that feed as well. You can, of course, also follow us on Twitter on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Come and join the Discord. We've got loads of conversations in there as well, which is fantastic. All those links are below. And if that's not enough, you can even support us via Patreon. Now, if you can afford to support us via Patreon, of course, it's very, very cool if you can. We are making exclusive bonus content over there. You get exclusive episodes. You get early access to these weekly episodes, both audio and video. There's a private Discord channel as well. And you can become a part of the FM Show Patreon squad for as little as £3 a month. To sign up, visit patreon.com/the FM Show Pod and become a member, just like Adam Windsor and the wonderfully named Gibraltar Apex. I'm not sure if that's their rename or not, but I'd like to think it is. They joined up this week, and we, of course, appreciate that support. It means the world to us. Now, admin out of the way. Last episode, of course, as we said, we talked about Steve. We talked about keeping those players in peak physical condition. So you obviously learned from that, and I'm guessing you're now nearing the end of the season, Steve, and you have some decisions to make. So today we are going to start to discuss what do you do at the end of that season. So, Aaron, you're going to do your thing. You're going to bring the game up, and you're going to show us some areas that we might want to look at, to be honest. So if you want to take the lead on this and give us your thoughts.
Yeah, so at the moment, I've got my save with Real Madrid. Actually, I was doing a Carlo Ancelotti recreation, trying to get the best out of Jude Bellingham, to be honest. And that video will be going out on my YouTube as well. And of course, on my YouTube, you'll be able to get some links that will redirect you back over here as well. But we're currently at the end of the season at Real Madrid. And now we can actually see what we want to do to kind of plan ahead of next year and kind of review the season that we've had. We've had a very good season, to be honest. But the first thing that I like to do, of course, is so on your squad page, on the left-hand side, you've got squad, and it will bring you to your squad players, and you've got all the list of the players there. And then you can be able to change the filter or the view. And then from here, you can go from general info, contract, transfer, homegrown status, all that good stuff. And the first thing I like to do is look at the contract and see who else or whose contract is expiring. Do we need to renew any contracts? And also, if you want to bring in some players as well, you can do your scouting and make sure you're looking at players with their contract ending, and you can get some free transfers if you haven't got a great budget. But just looking at your own squad, reviewing your own squad, first thing I actually do is not look at any data or any stats, is actually just looking at the contract's expiry and making sure that if I want to renew anyone's contract. At the moment, I've got Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, Vinicius Jr., Nacho, Joselu's loan's ending, Kepa's loan is ending, and Andre Lunin, our backup goalkeeper, contract is expiring. So already, my star striker and my 2-star central midfielders, their contract is going. So I need to be looking to replace a striker and 2 central midfielders. I already know that, unless I haven't got a young option already prepared for those roles.
There's one thing to think about as well, Aaron. You mentioned there about those contracts that are expiring. What you can do is, as a little tip, is you might be wondering what your budget's going to be like for next year, right?
Yeah.
If you've already decided, though, that you don't want to renew those players' contracts, okay, and maybe like a Toni Kroos, for example, is on a lot of money and you're a little bit up against the wall with regards to finance, if you go to his contract and you click set for release at the bottom, not release on free, but if you click set for release, it automatically adjusts the wages that you would be paying for Toni Kroos out of your budget. So it then gives you a more realistic view of what your finances are going to be like. So you can then say, well, actually, right, we're going to not renew Toni Kroos' contract at whatever money it is. And therefore, our projection for what we look going forward, we're now taking his money away. So we're not paying that anymore. So actually, your finance, your transfer budget and your wages are actually in a bit of a healthier state than before. So when you go to discuss a contract for somebody else, those negotiations aren't going to hit stalemate straight away because you're maybe at the max of your budget. You can then go that little bit higher because you've already reallocated that money. So that's a nice little tip that I like to share with people. Just some people know it. Some people maybe go, oh, never thought of that, Steve.
Yeah, I never thought of that. No, that's good. That's a really good tip in terms of like helping.
It is, because
knowing
I didn't
what
know
you've
that
got
either.
coming anyway, right? You might, and it's actually a good way of exercising those decisions. And actually, because part of the reason we wanted to do this specific chat around like season's end, in terms of like when to do certain things, like the best time. And because as you can see on the screen, there's the screen that you get, the season review, that sort of stuff, are sort of the sort of things that you only really get at that point when the season does end. So things like planning ahead like that is a really good example. Another thing as well, that I thought I kind of think is a good thing to do at this stage in a save, is look at the squad to sort of reaffirm certain thoughts of things. So on that squad section again, on the contract view that Aaron mentioned, you can do various things. To Tony's point, in terms of trying to think about what your transfer fee is going to be next year, if you're looking at it and you go, okay, what I like to do, for example, is you go along and you've got, picked name, agreed play time, etc. On wage, obviously you can click on it and you can look and go see your top earners are. And that may surprise you. There might be people in there you're thinking, what, he's on that much? He's a highest earner, etc. sort of thing. And also it's good when you are doing transfers too, just to have in the back of your mind who your top earner is, right? This is more for clubs where that sort of stuff does matter. So when you're
particularly as well, sorry, Steve, particularly as well, if you've joined a club mid-season maybe, and this is your first end of season, and it's a time to fully take stock of a team and go, oh God, I've not even played him, and he's on how much? Right, get rid. So that's a great time to see it. Yeah,
exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. And so you can do this either way around. Look at the contract first, for example, and when it expires, potential value, that sort of thing. Agree playing time, that sort of stuff too, because that's another thing in terms of like looking at, why is this person unhappy? Oh, because you said they're a star player and he's never played, as an example. So you look at contract first, or you can go back to general info and do that first, just to sort of get a sense of. And this is there we go. No, not general info. What do I mean? I mean selection info. Where you get your position, morale, physicality. We were there in the last episode on conditioning, but it's got your appearances, goals, and assists. So when you cross-reference that in your head in terms of like, okay, this person's on X amount of money, and they started, let's say you have a 50-game season, and they started 20 of them. If they're like one of your top earners, it's a good way of going. We all have our biases in our sense of like, well, this player is important to me, etc. When you look at the numbers at the end of the season, which is the last chance to access that end of season data, you can go, actually, he's not as important as I thought he was. The example that I used for this one was I looked at Dejan Kulusevski, who in this game in 2030 is 30 now, was one of our top earners, only started 20 games. Another 20 were off the bench, but he was literally like on starters money. So I thought, actually, he's 30, went to the contract, realized you're at that stage, IRL I talk about, of only having 2 years left. So it's re-sign or sell territory. So I actually sort of made the slightly heart-wrenching decision, because he scored and made loads of goals for us, but also needed money. So, and actually there was interest in him. So I thought, actually, we sometimes and ah about players, especially if you get, a bit emotionally attached to them, that sort of thing. And they are still good, even though a few years down the road, they might get worse. That helped me go, do you know what? It is the right thing to do to sell him.
Yeah.
And that's one of those really big discussion points. And like you're talking about that, like how useful a player is. Like you look at the numbers, what are you getting for the money that you're spending? And there are loads of third party views. People have made some great views that you can load into the game that will help you get into the data that the game has that it doesn't necessarily show you with the default skin. And if you do want some recommendations on which ones to look at, join the Discord. We've got some loads of bits and pieces in there that we can sort of point you in directions of if you want to see passes attempted, completions and distance ran and all that sort of stuff. But you mentioned a really interesting point there, Steve, and it's one that we've all talked about off camera and off microphone, is maybe this is the window. The end of the season is that time when you go, I think it's time to let my star player go. And that's when you have to start planning, isn't it? And go like, right, he's my top earner. We've seen it at so many big clubs. It gets to the point, I'm going to coin a Steveism here. IRL, Harry Kane, of course, left Tottenham. the calculated risk of, right, is now the time to cash in? And you've got to look at those numbers and you've got to make those decisions, because that could allow you, Aaron, to start plotting for next year. And it might be your big guy, but is he still giving you big guy performances?
Yeah, so funny enough, again, off camera, I actually said, because in this Real Madrid save, as some of you guys can see on YouTube, Vinicius Jr. is actually currently on his way to Manchester City. Now, I knew this was going to happen fairly early. Beginning of the season, he just had no interest in signing a new contract. And then he accepted a contract from Manchester City in January. So for me, in preparation, what I did is signed Eddie Nketiah. Now, I've got two options with Eddie. It's either he carries on being that sort of backup striker, and then in the summer, I can go big again to sort of replace Vinicius Jr. Or if Eddie does well from December to the end of the season, then it's actually likely he's going to be pushing to replace Vinicius Jr. So again, I've sort of done mine halfway through the season, but mainly because I was forced to. Vinicius Jr. was already on his way out, but I would have had a similar thinking towards the end of the season here. Or actually, it would have been a bit more, I don't know, I would have to make a decision. Do I sign a big striker to replace Vinicius straight away? Or am I actually going to rely on a player like Eddie Nketiah, who has that potential to be a starter in the future? And then, of course, at Real Madrid as well, some of you guys can see, I've also got Rodrigo as well, who's actually a similar player to Vinicius Jr. when you're comparing the attributes. So I've got a few options, and Eddie Nketiah just adds to those sort of options. And there is going to be a time where you may be thinking, is it time to cash in on your best player? And for me, I'll kind of look at my squad to see who's there. If he goes now, do we have someone already there that can sort of take his place? Or do I look in the transfer window or just around to see if we can go and replace him, that big striker?
And in FM23, Aaron, this is where something like the squad planner, for example, really comes into its own. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm old school. I'm pen and paper. Like, look, you can literally see there's my ticks, right? So we're in these are all new gen names, so these are going to mean nothing to anybody, right? But this is me already prepping for where I was going to sort of bring my squad up to task in the summer, right? But you're right, like having that squad planner out there to go, okay, here's my number one in that position, and then seeing what have I got behind.
Exactly, and people, again, when you see it on the screen,
where am I looking at sort of like going to be investing that money? And that's when you can make those calculated risks to go, right, you know what? Yeah, okay, we are going to lose our top striker, for example, a striker, because you know what? I've got a couple of guys who are just about coming up to their peak. Or, hey, you know what? If we lose this guy, then it's going to actually, we can change our play a little bit and play a bit different, and we can get the best out of this player instead.
Yeah.
And it allows for somebody else to develop in a different position. Like maybe you're working into the box, but you've maybe got a really good winger who's coming up through the ranks. So you think, actually, you know what? Let's get the ball to him, whip some crosses in. This fella's a bit more physical. Maybe that'll change the way we play for next season. So sometimes those considerations do come into play.
I think as well, the one thing too that I thought about, and we mentioned the data hub before in terms of if you're looking to buy within the league that you're in. Again, this stage of the season is this final chance really before the game sort of resets, right, for the new season, to look at the data hub and get that full season insight in terms of players in your league. So that's another opportunity, a good opportunity, you know, slightly looking at a different angle at the data hub as a sort of free scouting tool. You know, that's just one of those things that essentially you'll never get to do again because it resets for the new season, right?
Yeah, one of those end of season things I like to do is go, in addition with the data hub, Steve, is, Aaron, if you go to the end of season, the actual league structure itself. So if you sort of like click on the La Liga icon at the top, and then it pulls in, you can go to player stats. So the player, the player stats and player detailed stats at the top. You can then split down specific metrics that you might be looking for. So say, for example, your right back's been a liability. Maybe he doesn't win as many headers. Maybe he's not quite as aggressive as you need him to be. You can search for those areas, you know, like attempted tackles, key tackles. Maybe interceptions might be something that you want to be looking at, because I guess, you know, we say it so many times. It's a really good example. People sometimes look at defenders and look at tackles made, but if you look at the Man City, they're not making tackles, they're making interceptions. So tackling in that sense is a metric you don't want to be looking for. You want to be looking for interceptions to win the ball. And if you're making the tackle, you're out of position. So if you're winning headers or you're missing headers, you might want to go, right, I tell you what, who's a player who's won the most headers in my division, right? And you might end up with the 5th best header of the ball in the division, but it gives you, there might not be the player that shows up in your scout report, because when you look at their headers won, they might also have interceptions, they might also have blocks, and you might be, well, you know what, actually, he's not the guy I wanted, but he does what I need. And again, that's looking at the data from the previous season going, I think this is what we're lacking.
And it's nice as well too, because you sort of get to the end of the season and you're going through, and previously you've got the training block and all this sort of stuff, and it's you're sort of clicking through. Some people go on holiday, but either way, you're getting through the game more quickly, so it's a good chance, really, isn't it, to sort of reflect on those things. Is there anything else that you guys? Sorry, Aaron.
I was going to say, just staying on that point, because we're at this page and I was just going through it as you lot was talking as well. So again, talking about Vinicius Junior now. So if we go to the squad planner and you guys can see it as well for those listening, I've only got 5 strikers at this club. Juan Miguel Latassa is actually a 23-year-old that plays for Castilla, so he's just not an option at all. And like I said, I've already bought Eddie Nketiah as my sort of backup or potential replacement for Vinicius Junior, but Joselu's contract is also expiring. So at the end of the season, we could be losing Latassa, Joselu, and Vinicius Junior. And that only leaves me with Rodrigo and Eddie Nketiah. So I already know right now, it's a striker. No matter what, I need to buy a striker. I know that just looking at squad planning now. Now looking at replacing Vinicius, going back to that page, the competitions, you can go to competitions on the left-hand side. And then for me, I'm in La Liga. So I just click La Liga, go to stats on the top, and then player overview. Now, what Vinicius Junior was very good at is having an expected goal per shot. So if we look for that, you can see Carlos Elena at the top, Borja at second, and then Vinicius Junior is third. Now, if I want to look for a striker, possibly in La Liga, then I could be looking for a different striker with a similar sort of stat here, just like Andre Silva. Andre Silva might be an option for me. He's very good. Memphis Depay, Antonio Griezmann, though they're from Atletico, so they might not be an option. And if I go down at the bottom, Rodrigo is actually in this list, and he played a slightly different role. He was more the creator for Vinicius, but I know actually Rodrigo could possibly play this role. So like I said earlier, Rodrigo might be a potential replacement. This is giving me a little bit more confidence that Rodrigo could replace Vinicius Junior, and then I can go for a slightly different profile as the striker partner, because we are playing a 4-4-2 diamond, where the right-hand side, Rodrigo, is the complete forward, and on the left-hand side, we have Vinicius Junior. So next season, my plan is to move Rodrigo to the left-hand side as an advanced forward, and now I will be looking for a complete forward in the window.
There we go. Wow. Best of luck for anyone taking on La Liga in that stage.
And again, it's a nice time as well, Aaron, as you're saying there, just to look at those little tactical tweaks as well. Maybe there's a role that sort of like would work better for a different player that you're looking at.
Yeah.
That's a good time to give it a bit of an MOT. Maybe run a little tactics garage on your own tactic there. But there's another bit that I find really interesting in these end of season reviews. Okay, and it's the elephant in the room, right? And I'm going to talk about it, because I think we all need to address it. It's the end of season expectation team meeting.
Ooh,
and it's when everything's gone well or not well, and you go into the room and you say, right, lads, and then you hope that whatever button you've pressed is the right button.
It's easy said hope. I knew exactly what you said. You just got to hope. It is. And I guess it's something that we maybe not are considering, is checking your squad personality. Maybe that helps. If they're determined and ambitious, then maybe you can go for something a little bit more ambitious, considering everyone's on that same thinking. But if they're not, then maybe don't try and be too ambitious with that team meeting. But then again, for me, it's more of a click and a hope. Click and hope. Click and hope.
Click and hope. If you take nothing from this episode, remember,
click and hope.
New merch incoming. Okay, so Let us know, as always, if there's anything you do in the end of season that we haven't discussed. If there's anything that you think is a good idea, of course, do make sure you get in touch via all of our social medias or an email at the FM Show Pod. That's the FM Show Pod at gmail.com. And that's where we're going right now. Just a quick one, just while this episode's on. I hope you're enjoying it, by the way. And if you are enjoying it, please consider hitting that like button. That'd be much appreciated. It shows us who's enjoying the episodes. And also, while you're there, why not consider hitting the subscribe button as well? You'll find out exactly when all the new episodes drop, so you'll never miss a beat. That, of course, pushes us up through the YouTube algorithm. It gets us in front of more eyes. And, of course, the more the podcast grows, the better it's going to be. There's also a little space for a comment, so leave us a comment. We love reading them, and we will, of course, get back to you as well. And speaking about getting back, let's get back to the episode. Actually, we're going into the correspondence, Steve. We're going to start talking about emails.
We are indeed. The first one out of a heaving mailbag this week. So thanks everyone who's
mailbag.
Mailbag. MAIL. Crucially. Not other one. Lane Atkins. Lane Atkins is the first plucked out of the mailbag sack today.
Plucked out of the sack.
Plucked out of the sack. Lane Atkins. Come on, children. Tony, RDF, and producer Steve. I'm very glad to see or hear the three of you back in action. Thank you very much, Lane. The relaunch pod is fantastic, and I really appreciate the work that you put into it. As long-held listeners know, if you stroke our ego like that, you pay the toll, you're through. Well done, Lane. Knew what they were doing. Lane said, I just listened to the confessional segment at the end of episode 7, which we mentioned at the top of this show as well. And it made me wonder, what are the unwritten rules of Football Manager? If I'm going to confess, I'll need to know what I've sinned, what my sins have been, what my sins could be. I'd be curious to know what each of you think of the 10 commandments of playing FM the proper, in inverted commas, way. The limits or definition of save scumming, when and how to use the in-game editor, if at all. I'm sure some might say that's a faux pas. Exploiting the game in other ways, that sort of thing. Thank you very much from Lane Atkins. Well, gentlemen, that strikes me as a thing that we should draw up, doesn't it?
I can't believe we wasted our time on the end of season discussion. This is what we should be talking about. The 10 commandments, right?
10 commandments.
I'm getting my pen and paper out here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll be very interested to hear what other people's views on this as well. So make sure you do email and Twitter in.
Should we all have separate 10s, or should we collect them together?
I think we should collect 10 between us, because that'll be 30 potentially. So if we do 3 each, and then we'll just maybe, or even if we
have honourable mentions,
or come up with a few, and then look, if you're listening, because this is not going to be the definitive list, we can maybe make the definitive list as we go through. But remember, play the game how you want. But of course, there will be some contentious discussions to be had. Leave a comment below. Let us know on Twitter. Let us know on all the various social medias.
So yes.
I'm just buying time because there's one that I know is going to get a lot of people's backs up, right? I'm not going.
Well, save it for next episode, Tony. Save it for next episode. So we'll gather together, as Tony says, put the comments on the various ways that you can do of your suggestions for FM commandments, and we will do the list next episode.
I'm waiting for that. So we also had an email from Joel Watts. Hello, FM show. Love listening to this every week. Oh, thank you for the new ideas and tips. Being a Champ Man original, I still find new things every episode. I don't know what it is. When people say Champ Man, I'm automatically like, yeah, that's my guy. That's my guy. Love the chat on episode 6 about different save types. I have always gone for TJ's love of getting a team from lowest possible to as high as possible. And because of this, I'm still playing FM22 and I'm so invested in my save. Steve, you have a friend here, FM22 friend. I am looking for a different type of save when I buy FM24, and I think either Fallen Giant or a rebuild will be the way to go. I started out at Bashford United, a local team to me in Nottingham. They're in the 7th tier in real life. I took over when they were promoted to the Vanarama North. And now, after 13 long seasons, we have finally lifted the Premier League title. Congratulations. Your talk about stadiums made me laugh as we've been through so many on the save, starting in the much-loved real-life stadium of Greenwich Avenue. We've renovated and built a new stadium, which has seen us play in Eastwood Towns, Coronation Park, Mansfield Towns, Field Mill, and my favourite, the world famous City Ground, U Reds, before settling in the new Bashford Stadium, which is now being extended to an attendance of just under 25,000. Sorry for the lengthy emails. Oh, not a problem. Lots of seasons to sum up from Joel. Now, Nottingham is kind of a special place for us, ain't it?
Oh, it holds a place in our hearts, doesn't it? Nottingham. And you know what? You know what, Joel? Get yourself down to Nottingham. In fact, everyone should get themselves down to Nottingham on the 6th of November because we are taking part in the Nottingham Comedy Festival. We're going to be at the Canal House, which is a great bar. It serves fantastic ales. It serves fantastic coffee as well, by the way, if you're not a drinker. Come to the show. The tickets are very, very, very reasonably priced, £5. Come to the show. Come and see us do a live record of the podcast. You'll get to meet myself, Aaron, producer Steve in person. But more than that, come and have a drink with us afterwards. Come and meet us. Come and chat to us. Come and meet people who love this game. This is what we found out doing live shows with regards to Football Manager. People come and they want to tell their stories. They want to meet like-minded folk. Don't stress about coming on your own as well, by the way. I need to stress that out right now, okay? Because some people aren't really keen on traveling on their own to various events. These sorts of events are perfect. It sounds cliche, but you can come on your own and you will guarantee you will leave with friends, okay?
Oh,
we did it last year as part of Football Manager Therapy. We're going to do it this year as part of the FM show. And potentially, Aaron might even find his way back to his hotel in less than an hour this time.
So yeah, like what Tony was saying, like I went obviously by myself, and then as you go, you meet people, and then we left the venue, and we was just talking and walking. It got to about 45 minutes later. It was like, we are sure the hotel was only a 5-minute walk, and we got lost just talking Football Manager. But it was that sort of thing. Is that it was raining as well. I swear to you, me and it was Callum. We were not upset at all. It was just like the funniest thing to us. It was just talking, going home, back to the hotel room, just soaking wet. It was genuinely a good laugh. And I've met, and I would like to say, a friend for life.
And it was fantastic as well, because obviously we were doing the show in its previous incarnation, and Aaron and I hadn't even met in real life. At that point, we'd already recorded loads of episodes, like when we did Insomnia, which of course you can see on Patreon, by the way. First time we met producer Steve in real life was again doing these live shows. So because, of course, we record remotely, it's amazing to actually come and meet the team properly. And Steve, you're familiar with Nottingham. You know the sites. You can show us around, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I lived there. I went to university there, so I lived there for 3 years. Actually lived about 12 minutes away from Basford. Probably should know how it's pronounced, probably, shouldn't I? Since I lived so close when I was there. So very familiar with that part of the world. And indeed,
my God. I've been saying Bashford. Sorry,
I don't know.
As soon as you said it, I was like, "Oh wait, I've been saying Bashford." Sorry. If you're
as well, Aaron, you don't have any excuse because Basford has been in existence. It was recorded in the Doomsday Book in 1086, so it's been that for a long time.
I feel better.
Not to help you anyway. But yeah. So not only did I live 12 minutes drive from Basford when I was a student in Nottingham. But also, when I went to the Canal House, I once went there with university friends. I went there for my stag do, actually, just over a year ago. My stag do was in Nottingham. Started off in the Canal House, so beautiful bit right out the back on the canal, shockingly. Went there a few years ago for a university reunion, though. Went to get around, completely forgot what people wanted. 7 people. So I panicked, and I bought 7 pints of stout. And brought them over, and everyone was just like, I can't drink this. So then I had to go get another round in, and then just had this collection of it was beautiful. And if you're a fan of stout, and the thing about the place too is that it's got a really nice collection of variety of beers as well. So if you're sort of a bit of a craft beer enthusiast, you'll find lots there. If seeing us live is not enough of a pull for you. So overall, big fan of Nottingham, big fan of that email. Joel, thanks very much for sending it in.
Absolutely. And of course, the link for the show tickets is in the description, and we will be tweeting that out basically until the show to get it sold out. We've sold loads of tickets already, which is amazing. But of course, we'd love to have a sold out room if we can do. So if anyone fancies it and you're a bit and ahhing about it, just get it bought. It's only £5. Get yourself in. Adam Riley has also sent us an email. It says, "Hi guys, I want to start by saying great show." Adam, we like you. We like you. Listening has really got me trying new saves and tactics. As I'm quite new to the podcast, I've been catching up listening to some of the older episodes as well. I really like the idea of the community challenge. That's what we did, of course, in our previous moniker, and would like to start a new save trying one out. But I don't want to start an old one in case you have a new challenge in the pipeline. Interesting. I really enjoyed this feature in previous seasons of the podcast and would like to join in with any challenge you might be thinking of. Any challenge? We're great to hear ideas discussed amongst yourselves on an upcoming podcast episode. Also, thanks for the FM show pod and keep up the good work. Many thanks.
Thank you, Adam.
Community challenge. Ooh, that's got my spidey senses tingling. Steve?
I think we should do one at some point, but I wonder if we save it. So I think the answer, Adam, is maybe try one of the old ones. Maybe go back to do Sheffield Wednesday if you're really feeling sick. Try the Derby challenge back in when they were in financial rack and ruin. Sunderland is always a fun one.
It's always there.
It's always Sunderland's there if you want.
Yeah.
You know, your mileage may vary. But Adam, basically, do one of the old ones or do another save. Don't worry, we are gonna do a community challenge a bit further down the track, but not so soon that you'll start one and then be like, oh no,
it's not even that as well. It's because obviously with the community challenge, we would like to complete a few seasons. At least 2-3 seasons. We like to update it each week as well. Looking at the date, Football Manager tends to come out in November. And looking at the date, that's actually pretty soon. So it's one of those things we don't want to really get stuck into it now. And it doesn't complete. That would be the worst thing for us, is that the community challenge isn't completed when FM24 comes out. So I think the best thing for us would be just holding off, possibly until FM24. I don't want to confirm it, but I might have just confirmed it.
That's not confirming it, for God's sake.
How's about people get in touch with some suggestions? Because
that would help us as well.
Because it's a community challenge. Like maybe I've taken a little bit of the Sheffield Wednesday thing on, right? Okay, I've learned from Sheffield Wednesday. It wasn't fun, and it was really, really sad at times. Okay, now I'll take the blame for that because I championed that one. Going forward, if it's a community challenge, suggest some ideas.
Yeah,
join the Discord.
Involved,
offer us some ideas of what you think would be a good challenge to do. Think about it. Like, we don't want something that's going to take like 25 seasons, take a tier 10 to the Champions League. It's got to be realistic. It's got to be quote unquote fun. It's got to be a challenge, but ultimately it's something we can do in 5 seasons. 10 seasons would be the absolute max, but even then that feels long. Because people have got to play it at their leisure as well. You want to kind of have like a sort of a couple of months to get into it, but it's got to be interesting. It's got to be something a little bit different. So stick us a comment on the YouTube, or like I say, get that discussion going in Discord, which is a really great place for that to do. So come on with suggestions, and who knows, maybe yours might be the one we pick.
Indeed. Final email today from the sack of stuff that they come from. From Luca Chiara Velotti. Thank you.
We were going to give that one to Adam. Aaron's trying.
It sounded perfect. It just sounded. Oh, that was perfect. I like your name, Luca.
Hey lads, says Luca. Love the show and love the recent discussions around save styles. That was it last episode or the one before? One before.
One before.
It's in the title. Just scroll down. You guys know what you're doing with that sort of thing. Yes. So we were talking about different types of saves that you can do. Luke has been playing FM since the early CM Champ Manager days. CM2 as a young one. But as often happens with all of us, goes as you go through life, etc. Ups and downs. You miss the game for a few years. It gets incredibly complicated. People fall away for various reasons. The important thing is that you can come back and enjoy it in a new way. So for FN23, Luca created what they have described as an ultimate realism save, which sounds almost like a sort of philosophical, like a sort of strand of existentialism or something.
But augmented reality as well. Like, everything's
indeed. There you go.
Ultimate realism 10 commandments.
The only first commandment is you have to play the game in real time.
Yeah, realism save.
Christ, yeah. Wow, can you imagine?
Sorry, Steve, I interrupted you.
No worries. It just got me thinking about how sometimes, I don't know whether it's just a sort of glitchy thing in my game, but every so often the game will switch to full 90 minutes. So I watch it on comprehensive anyway. I'm like, this is really comprehensive, this game. This must be taken. And I look at it, I'm like, hang on. I've literally just watched 20 minutes of a full simulator game.
I tell you what would be ultra realistic is that you manage all your home games in or next to the actual stadium that you manage. Then you've got to travel for your away games. You'd put some miles in there, wouldn't you? Imagine the European fixtures. Say to your partner, I've got to go to Albania. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, decent content idea.
Oh wow! Well,
sounds a lot better. We're doing, Aaron.
Anyway, sorry, Luca. We've gone off massively. Anyway, ultimate realism. How you can clearly take it quite a long way. What Luca did is kind of a sort of non-lead to legend, sort of advanced edition. I can see Tony's eyes lighting up there as I sort of say that as well. So Luca started the save and actual as real as possible in terms of his profile, 30 years old, Australian, no badges, and Sunday League experience, which I'm sure many of us can relate to in terms of real life actual experience. So Luke had a look around at various leagues with the lowest reputation until finding something which piqued their interest. In this case, Llanidlos in the Welsh second division. I think that's right, Llanidlos. But any Welsh speakers do chastise or compliment appropriately, please. So the thing that's again ultimate realism as a save, ultimate realism. So Aaron, you mentioned traveling to places, that sort of thing. So this is kind of almost more difficult what Luca's doing. In each place that Luca goes to on this save, they are actively learning the language of any club that they're currently managing. So they spent 5 seasons at Llanidlos, winning the Cymru North and building the club's reputation in the Cymru Premier. Moving on to TNS, that's the new Saints, into sort of the top end of Welsh football. Spent 5 seasons there, taking them from 3rd and 4th in the league to winning 4 titles in a row. So just striding Welsh football by the time they left, all whilst learning the Welsh language. 10 football manager seasons in Wales. Lucas said 10 years in the email, and we hope it's not that realistic, as pointed out. I started a decade ago.
That's why he's playing CM2. He still the game only lasted 20 years.
Anyway, 10 years in Welsh football. Luca was then approached by struggling League 2 side Angers. Where Luca's been for 7 Angus.
You'd have expected it to be me to say that.
Angers me. 7 seasons at Angers. They're now sitting 4th or 4th in Ligue 1, having won League 2. The Coupe de France and the UEFA Conference League. And all of that having just completed A1 in French learning. Now I'm just going to Google what A1 is. Is A1 not the road? A1 is a road in the UK. I don't think that's what Luke has done though. A1 French.
I believe that's just. Isn't A1 just that top of the class?
I'm guessing like Australian qualification, possibly. Like that's your
very good. It's very good or excellent. Yeah, top of the class. Very good or excellent.
Très bien, you might say.
Très bien.
So he's actually got a qualification whilst doing Football Manager in French?
Is it an actual qualification as well? Like, has he gone through like a registered education establishment, or is it just that he now feels like? Because I've like when we did the stuff with Odds Ball Club in Norway, I had Duolingo on the go at the same time to try and learn a bit of Norwegian, and I did not reach anything above traveller. Basically, like, basically, visitor was my level. Like going, "Jeg snakker norsk," and they go, "No, you don't. You don't speak Norwegian." But A1 in French, well done. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, the sort of long story short, learning languages whilst doing the Foot Manager Day, great idea. I was talking to Aaron off before we started recording actually about how in my FIFA playing days, I did a lot with Athletic Bilbao, so I'd have the Spanish commentary on. That's too. It's one of the things I love about football in general, but also playing this game, that sort of kind of culture exchange, I suppose, that happens. And with that in mind, Luca has asked how the Italian's coming along, and I'll say molto bene. What I was say to you.
I used to do a joke when I did the Football Manager Ruin My Life tour. I mentioned that to make the game difficult, I would manage someone in Germany and change the game language to make it harder, and then get sacked after like a few weeks. Going, don't know what I'm supposed to do now.
I did that with the Turkey save, but the only thing when it comes to me, I tried to beat and be smart, so I kind of knew where things were. So in the end, I just stopped reading the words and just go to it because I knew where it was, which wasn't the point in it. But yeah, that's me.
Well, there you go. Well, that's a great email, Luca, and actually great correspondence through the show too as well. So thanks very much for getting in touch. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if you want to add to our mailbag, you can send us an email via the FM Show Pod. That's the FM Show Pod @gmail.com. Or, of course, all your short form correspondence comes via Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Discord. And that was episode 8 of the FM Show, hosted by myself, Tony Jameson. My co-host was Aaron Falloon, aka RDF Tactics. Our producer is producer Steve Hankey. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.